Hello, and welcome to this project management training presentation on Theory X managers. Where do they come from? What makes them tick? What do they eat? Our learning objectives in this presentation are to define Theory X, discover the origin of Theory X, understand the behavior of the Theory X manager, learn about the Theory X manager's style and performance, and go through a few examples of Theory X managers. Douglas McGregor used the concept of the Theory X manager as a representation of one way to manage employees. In fact, the prevalent way to manage employees at the time. In the 1960s, freedom was a popular concept for postulation about how life should be, and during those winds of change, McGregor penned his work, The Human Side of Enterprise, in which he further postulated the ideal management theory which he called Theory Y, in contrast to the then prevailing style of employee management. By McGregor's definition, a Theory X manager is a person responsible for building a team, who thinks that humanity is full of self-centered, lazy, childish, creativity-free, unintelligent, and irresponsible people. Theory X managers think that a precious few representatives of humanity have what it takes to lead, and that this sliver of humanity was born with the traits of an effective leader. McGregor called this management style, management by control. The attitude of the Theory X managers reflects a similar thinking inherent in aristocracies, wherein the power is kept within certain families and maintained through tradition and physical force. Theory X managers tend toward racism and sexism since they maintain these older school ideas about humanity. The Theory X manager sees others as a means to one's own ends. As a result, workers are disposable and interchangeable. Theory X managers can still be heard saying things like, "The world also needs ditch diggers." Generally, Theory X managers don't place much faith in people. Their management techniques revolve around the concept that control, coercion, and manipulation of people are the only way to success. They maintain autocratic control and blame problems on others. In a word, the Theory X manager style is autocratic. Given another word, authoritarian is similarly suitable. However, it's very interesting that many, less scholarly works portray a Theory X manager as this oppressive Machiavellian overlord, who has all sorts of mental problems, cheats his workers at any chance, and is overall abusive to employees. Theory X versus Theory Y isn't about good cop versus bad cop, where Theory X is full of darkness and plight, and Theory Y is filled with princesses and unicorns. Theory X is merely one extreme perspective an employer might hold, while Theory Y is at the opposite end of the continuum. Just because the Theory X manager believes that he is more intelligent and more naturally motivated than the workers by whom he is surrounded, doesn't mean he has to constantly share this perspective abusively, through pride, arrogance, or elitism. In fact, Theory X managers are frequently quite concerned about the welfare and morale of their staff. They just think that there are very specific ways to attain their welfare and morale, namely reward, reprimand, and highly controlled systems. Consider that a Theory X manager would treat his employees like a beast of burden or a machine. Sure, you will see examples of folks who never change the oil in their autos, but you will see just as many examples of those who pimp out their ride, or wax and buff their auto every chance they get. And there are many shades of grey in between. Since the Theory X manager's perspective is that people only work to receive money, or to satisfy their lower-level needs, the Theory X manager will want to make sure that his valuable employees are well maintained, stick around, and keep being productive, through raises, promotions, or even praise, if words are the worker's preferred currency of remuneration. Those who are a pain to him, on the other hand, can be sacked, replaced, or given even more mundane tasks to perform, and never given a single raise. If the employee doesn't believe that the treatment they receive is fair, they can go work somewhere else. Reviewing the history of humanity. There is a strong Theory X bent in many historical, philosophical, religious, and cultural views. The Christian concept of original sin, for example, reflects a Theory X mentality that since Adam and Eve disobeyed God's mandate to not eat the apple, a punishment was in order. And not just a punishment of the offender, but of everyone, forever. Consider further, that all slave systems are fundamentally Theory X, in that they fail to see people as anything greater than a pack animal. Consider a slave owner as a very extreme example of a Theory X manager. How would this manager convey his thoughts about his management concept to his slave crew?
Here's exactly what I want you to do, here's how I want you to do it, and I'm in charge around here, so you better get used to it. If you do things my way, things might go smoothly for you. If not, you'll taste the end of my lash.
Not all slave owners exclusively beat their slaves as punishment for failure to do the work expected. Some of them found that rewards worked just as well, using both the carrot and the stick to motivate, not just the stick. Well, with Thomas Jefferson, that might have been a double entendre, but one of his slaves sure got special treatment, didn't she? This means that slave owners were not necessarily insane, with short tempers, a penchant for shouting every time something doesn't go their way, and a consistent narcissistic belief that they are better than absolutely everyone else. They just thought they were better than the slaves whom they managed. Their assumptions were fostered by the laws of the time, to never educate a slave or teach them to read, and thus, status quo was maintained. Did the slaves want to work? Absolutely not. Why did they work then? They were forced to, much as the wage slaves of modern civilization have to work to pay their bills, feed their kids, and keep a roof over their heads. Conveniently, there is now freedom to choose where today's worker endures their hardship. In caste cultures where there is a strong segregation between the workers and the leaders, or in the most unpleasant jobs, the work is executed by people with the least education. Given these conditions, it is difficult to motivate or even manage workers without some form of control, manipulation, or coercion. Further, since everyone in these situations is generally kept uneducated, people forced by their circumstances to do all the hard or dirty work would reasonably behave like self-centered, irresponsible, and lazy children, or even in some cases, pack animals. Take Office Tiger as a case study of a Theory X manager in a caste system. They given a local workforce that the CEO continually complains isn't working hard or long enough, is incapable of doing the job, and requires constant micromanagement. Is this the CEO's native belief of humanity at large, or has this management style been imposed upon him by the actions of the workforce available to him in Chennai? Or is the behavior of his team merely a self-fulfilling prophecy brought upon him by his treatment of them? A full-on Theory X manager exhibits the following characteristics. If you see these in action in your organization, look for the exit pathway where yellow lights lead to red lights. Please be aware that your nearest exit may be behind you. As mentioned previously, Theory X managers are autocratic. They hold a pessimistic view of employees. A Theory X manager has a tendency to micromanage exactly how things get done, rather than being interested in a successful outcome. As an example, they might spend hours analyzing why $5 was misspent. Theory X managers sometimes threaten workers in order to get them to act. A Theory X manager also rewards workers when they act the proper way. They have a tendency to issue commands rather than asking. Be aware though, a Theory X manager may thank or praise a worker, in order to manipulate them, if the worker needs to feel appreciated. Theory X managers delegate the most tedious of tasks, rather than truly delegating authority, as the underling is believed to be far less capable. Additionally, being convinced of their superiority to the underling, a Theory X manager will not accept criticism from a subordinate. A Theory X manager might withhold raises or bonuses to manipulate worker behavior. Overall, the Theory X manager assumes that employees dislike work and will avoid responsibility. They assume that workers must be coerced into pursuing company goals and will blame people rather than processes when things go wrong, looking for the single person to make an example of to the rest of the team. If you've ever been managed by a Theory X manager, look deep inside and truly think about which came first in this chicken-egg causal paradox. Were you acting like a Theory X employee, triggering the Theory X manager to come out and pay you a visit? Was the environment already so sick and poisoned by Theory X play and counterplay, That there was no way of being treated any differently? Or had the manager been so thoroughly tainted by humanity at large, that there was simply no way you could escape their assumptions and presuppositions? All right. You've made it. Now it's time for our Theory X management quiz. How would a Theory X manager view employees? A. That employees need to be coerced in order to meet goals. B. That employees actively seek responsibility. C. That employees exercise self-control. Or D. That employees view work as a regular daily activity. If you selected answer A, you're right. A Theory X manager views employees as needing to be coerced in order to meet goals. Answers B, C, and D reflect characteristics of a Theory Y manager. Next question. A Theory X manager would assume that employees would A. Seek to be responsible. B. Enjoy work. C. Exercise self-direction. Or D. Need external control. If you selected answer D, you're right. A Theory X manager would assume that employees need external control. Answers A, B, and C reflect characteristics of a Theory Y manager. And now for the last question. All of the following are assumptions of a Theory X manager concerning employees except A. Hates work. B. Shirks responsibilities. C. Exercises self-direction. Or D. Requires formal direction. If you selected answer C, you're right. A Theory X manager assumes that employees hate work, shirk responsibilities, and require formal direction. Answer C reflects a worker characteristic expected by a Theory Y manager. If you want to learn more about McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y of motivation and management, consider reviewing these resources for further study on the topic. Thank you. This has been a production of projectmanagementcourse.info. Copyright 2011, all rights reserved. Blah de blah de blah, and all that rot.